or normal, regular crowd, well, I wouldn't say crowd, devotees. Hari Hari. When devotees get together, it's no more a crowd, it's an association. So those daily ones, regular ones, and then, well, there's a good chance, being EKÀDAŞީ, then we get some additional Ayaram, Gayaram Walas also join on EKÀDAŞÍ. They chant seasonally, season, EKÀDAŞÍ season, then they join us. And yet others, there's a good chance that others have, additional others have joined us today. So everybody, without any discrimination, we welcome you all, one and all, to Kirtan Ministries Śravana-kīrtana Utsav. Kirtan Ministry is encouraging devotees from around the world to celebrate EKÀDAŞÍ as Śravana-kīrtana Utsav, Śravana-kīrtana festival. It's a day of fasting as well as feasting. Day to fast from Maya and feasting on Krishna. Did you get that? Today is a fasting. Fasting from what? Of course, we say no grains, no beans. But basically, idea is to fast from Maya. Keep Maya away. Keep Maya away. So fasting from Maya and feasting on Krishna. Feast Krishna. Feast of Krishna. Feasting on Krishna. So how do we feast? How could we have feast? You all like feast, right? Ladli Kishori? You are hiding behind the screen. So you all like feast, yes? Anybody here likes feast? No one. Otherwise you could have raised your hand. I like it. I like it. I love feast. I know, although you are quiet. I know. We know. Because I love feast. I like feast also. So you are like me. We all souls are alike. All souls are alike. We all like feast. So that feast is the Śravana-kīrtana feast. So we do more Shravan, more Kirtan today on EKÀDAŞÍ. In other words, we nourish the soul. We feed the soul more today. full belly. Soul's belly. Soul also has a belly. Soul also, of course, soul has ears, soul has ear. Soul has tongue. So soul's Hari. So we undergo a little tapasya, austerities, less for the body, more for the soul. Hari. So EKÀDAŞÍ is a very special occasion. And this world had been, I'm sure from the beginning of creation, this EKÀDAŞÍ festival is observed. It's a very favorite festival of Vaishnavas. Really, where I'm sitting now here in Pandharpur, Dham Ki. This EKÀDAŞÍ festival is a big occasion here in Pandharpur, and not just in Pandharpur. In fact, all the devotees of Pandarinath, Vithala, Pandurang, all the followers of Tukaram, Maharaj Ki Jai, they celebrate this EKÀDAŞÍ festival. What do they do more? They do Kirtan more. Yeah, I remember during my childhood days, well, of course that goes on even to this day, all night long Kirtans. And I used to join those Kirtans. Kirtans, bhajans, Sundarate dhyana ubhe vitevari karakatavari thevuniya. The bhajan mandali in my village would sing the abhangas, kirtan, bhajans all night long. So, Hari. So I had been celebrating this EKÀDAŞÍ festival as Śravana-kīrtana Utsav or festival since my childhood days. Hari. And so Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Srila Prabhupada has, and all the acharyas have. And what did Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say? Śravana-kīrtana jale kara sechan. You nourish your soul. Well, in this case we say nourish your bhakti lata bij. Feed that beach or feed that, nourish that bhakti lata, the creeper of devotion. Let it grow taller and higher and stronger. So Śravana-kīrtana jale karaha sechan. On EKādAŞÍ we do a little extra, do a marathon of Śravana-kīrtana. Just now one devotee on chat said, Maharaj, I have completed 16 rounds. And I asked him, so now what? Are you going to take a break? Then he said, no, 64 rounds today. So that's the spirit So more chanting, more hearing. Besides chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, we should also be doing studies of the Shastras. Hear Krishna, what he has to say in Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita. Patan, we could do more. Śravana-kīrtana, that's so. As Kirtan Ministry is promoting this Śravana-kīrtana festival, we had been organizing Kirtaniyas to do Kirtan, as well as other presenters. They speak glories of Sri Krishna, glories of holy name, readings from Harinam Chintamani or Bhagavatam, or even we had been organizing japa retreats. Improve your chanting. So that kind of Śravana-kīrtana. Or even gradually will how to improve your pronunciation. Or we're getting devotees to sing bhajans. But as we sing them, we always do not understand those bhajans. My God brother Pancharatna Prabhu said the other day, he is part of our ministry, he said, yeah, devotees, they sing but they don't know the meaning of the song or bhajan. So Srila Prabhupada used to sing bhajans and explain the meaning of bhajans also. I know our Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj used to sing, well, and before singing he would explain the bhajan. Meaning of the bhajan, translation of the bhajan, or inner, deeper meaning, bhav of bhajan, bhavarth. So we also will have devotees presenting bhajans or explaining the meaning of the bhajans. So like that we will have every EKādAŠī Śravana-kīrtana festival. We already are, we started a few months ago, and so we wish to, with your cooperation, continue, your interest, your participation, continue this forever. So I encourage you all to join, especially our festivals, the Śravana-kīrtana festival. You can refer to the schedule, and so it's my turn now, and then Nirantar Prabhu, my god brother, Prabhupada disciple, all the way from Los Angeles, will be addressing you next. The glories of the holy name, I think is his topic. So I would be singing Hare Krishna in a little while. Well, before that I wanted to also remember Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur. In fact, remember the disappearance festival. That became a festival of Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur. In fact, today is Govinda Ghosh Prabhu's disappearance day. Govinda Ghosh Tiroha Tithi Mahotsava. So he was a great Kirtaniya. Yeah, along with his brother Madhav Ghosh. Madhav Ghosh, Vasu Ghosh or Vasudeva Ghosh, and Govinda Ghosh. Like there were three Ghoshas, three great singers of the holy name. They were brothers. And they were such a great, exceptional kind of singers that as soon as they would begin singing, or Govind Ghosh would begin singing, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would begin dancing. So Govind Ghosha's Kirtan would be inspirational, would inspire Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he would begin dancing in ecstasy. Ivanara Hari Adi Kari Chamara Dhulaya Vashughosha Adi Gaya. You remember that Sandhyarthi song? That Vashughosha means Vasudev Ghosh. Gaya, he's singing. So Vasu Ghosh or Vasudev Ghosh is a brother of Govinda Ghosh, whose disappearance festival we are celebrating today. So they would sing. So they are singers. So the Arati time or other times, they were known for their singing. And of course, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur was known for his singing, his chanting 300,000 holy names of the Lord. Ekadina Govinda Mahaprasad Laya Haridase Dite Gela Anandita Hoya. So one day, so this will bring us, transport us to Jagannath Puri, Siddha Bakul, and Govinda. This is Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal servant. He has come there with the Jagannath Prasad for Haridas Thakur. Dekhe Haridas Thakur kahiya chena shayan manda manda karite chena sankhya sankirtan. As Govind has arrived, he could notice that Haridas Thakur is lying down and softly chanting his Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Govinda kahe uth asi karah bhojan, Haridas kahe aji kari mulanghan. So Govind said, please get up and honor Prasad. Haridas Thakur responded, no, today I'm going to be fasting. Sankhya-kīrtana pure nahi ke mate khaimo. And he justifies his statement saying, how could I eat? I have not completed my prescribed number of rounds. Mahaprasada aniyache ke mate upekshimo. But then he has second thoughts. But he have come with Jagannath Prasad. Jagannath has come in the form of prasad, so how could I refuse? Ita boli Mahaprasada karila vandan, ek ranch laya tara karila bhakshan. And Haridas Thakur has offered prayers and obeisances to prasad. And he just took a little con, just morsel, and honored. Just took a few grains. Susta ho Haridasa bali tare puchila aradina Mahaprabhu tare thai aila. Yeah, this I am reading from Antya-lila chapter 11th. Today is EKÀDAŞÍ, so it's EKÀDAŞ Pariched, also describing disappearance of Namacharya. So another day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to visit, to meet, give darshan to Haridas. Namaskara karite ho kaila nivedan, sharira sustha hoya moro asustha buddhiman. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has inquired, how are you? How are you? Namacharya, how are you? And Haridas Thakur says, Sharira sustha hoy more. The body is okay. So what is not okay? Sustha buddhi man. My mind and intelligence is not very healthy. Prabhu kahe kona vyadhi kahat nirnay. Teho kahe Sankhya-kīrtana na puray. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired, what is your sickness? You say your mind and intelligence is sick. And Haridas Thakur says, I'm not able to complete my rounds, prescribed japa, the vow that I have taken. I'm struggling to complete. This is my sickness. This is my diseased condition. Prabhu kahe vradha hayya haila sankhya alpakar. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu responds, Hari, you could see the dialogue. I'm sure you are seeing that or understanding that dialogue between the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Brahma Haridas. Lord Brahma has appeared himself in the form of Haridas. So this is a dialogue between these two great souls, one supreme soul, one soul, sincere soul, leading soul, Brahma, who is also Acharya. Our sampradaya is Brahma, Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. First Acharya, founder Acharya of our sampradaya is Brahma. So he has taken avatar. He has descended as Brahma Haridas. And now here, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has made him, declared him to be Namacharya. He is already Acharya of Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, first Acharya. And now in Chaitanya Leela, he has been promoted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Namacharya, Acharya of the holy name. So this samvad, this dialogue is of a prime importance. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you are now old. You could minimize your number of rounds. Siddha deha tumi sadhane agraha kene kor. You are liberated. You are Paramhamsa. You don't have to follow these rules and regulations. You are above all this. Loka nistarite yei tomara avatar. Namera mahima loke karila prachar. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is acknowledging that you are avatar. Yet you have appeared. Loka nistarite e tomara avatar. In order to liberate the people of this world, you have appeared as Namacharya or Brahmaridas. Ebe alpo sankhya kari kara sankirtan. Okay, so that was one day's dialogue. We want to move a little faster. Eka vancha haya mora. So another day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to Haridas Thakur, and Haridas Thakur that day said, I have one desire, my Lord. Leela samvarite samrive tumi loya moro chitta. I could guess that you are getting ready to leave us or depart, return to your own abode. Apanara age moro sharira padiya padiba. And I do not wish to see your final pastimes like that. Let me go first. हृदये धरिमो तोमार कमल चरण नयने देखिमो तोमार चांद बदन. And as I leave, I wish to, that time, at the time of my departure, I wish to catch hold of your lotus feet, touch your feet, and with my hand and with my eyes I wish to drink the beauty of your lotus face. This is my vancha. This is my inner desire. Oh Lord, please fulfill this. Prabhu kahe Haridasa je tumi magibe, Krishna kripa moyataha avashya karibe. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has granted the wish, says, yes, Krishna will. Whatever you have prayed for or you are wishing, Krishna will fulfill that desire. And he's talking as if he himself has nothing to do with Krishna. Oh, Krishna, Krishna, some Krishna. He will fulfill your desire. Okay, then we have to move faster. So another day now, Mahaprabhu has come. Not alone. He has come with so many devotees, Kirtaniyas. They have come with Mridanga and Kartal, and in fact they have arrived with the Kirtan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the forefront with his ajanu lambita bhujau, bahutule, his raised arms, raised long arms, dancing in the midst of all other Kirtaniyas. Mahaprabhu has arrived, and upon arrival he is inquired, Haridas, kaha samachar, what is the news? Or what is on your mind? Agya tomar. Well, whatever your wish is my command. Whatever you would like to do with me. Angane arambhila Prabhu Mahasankirtan, Vakreshwara Pandita Taha Kare Nanartan. And then Kirtan continues. Vakreshwara is dancing. He is leading dancer in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Vakreshwar Pandit. So everyone is dancing, especially Vakreshwar's name is specifically mentioned. Haridasa Vedi Kare Nama Sankirtan Ramananda. Who else is there? Ramananda Sarvabhauma Sabara Agrete Haridasera Shuna Prabhu Guna Prabhu Lagila Kahite. And then suddenly Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started glorifying Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur. Mahaprabhu is glorifying to his heart's content. Glories of Namacharya, Haridas Thakur being chanted by Mahaprabhu himself, and all assembled are hearing with rapt attention. Haridasera guna kahite haila panchamukh. And while chanting, there is so much to chant, so much to say about Haridas Thakur. It sounded like Mahaprabhu had 5 mouths. And even those were not enough, but he was chanting with his 5 mouths. Haridasera gune sabara vismita hoyamon. And when they heard about Haridas Thakur. They were all amazed. Wow, wow, wow. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ke. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ke. They're all amazed to hear all these wonderful pastimes and glories of Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur. Sarva Bhakta Bande Haridasera Charan. And as a result, all the devotees started praying to the lotus feet, at the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur. Maybe they're trying to touch his feet, take the dust of his feet. Haridasa nijagrite prabhure basaila. Then next, so these are scene after scene after scene, different scenes. Like a drama is unfolding, or the history, the event that day. There's a good chance it was early morning hours, like right now. So, next thing was, Haridas Thakur has made Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sit down right in front of him. Nija netra doi bhanga mukha padme dila. Now his eyes have become like a bumblebee, Brahmar, and Lord's eyes are like a lotus. So this Brahmar, bumblebee, like eyes are now fixed on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's face, in fact. Haridas Thakur's eyes and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's face is like a lotus face. So Swaridaya Anidhari Prabhura Charan. And then he has, with his own hands, Haridas Thakur has held Lord's lotus feet and brought them closer and closer and placed on his own chest. He's preparing. Sarva Bhakta Padareno Mastaka Bhushan. And he's also trying to take the dust of all assembled devotees on his head. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Vadane Barabar Balena Barabar. And he's uttering, what is the utterance? Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu also says, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Bole na bar bar, Prabhu mukha madhuri piye, netra jaladhar. And he's drinking the beauty of Lord's lotus face with his own eyes. So those eyes are seeing Gauranga, especially his lotus face. And same eyes are shedding tears. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Shabda Karite Ucharan. And okay. His mouth is busy. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And his hands are touching Lord's lotus feet. He's also taking dust of other devotees' feet. And eyes are seeing, mouth is chanting, hands are touching Lord's body, especially feet. And Namera Sahita Prana Karila Utkraman. So as he finally said, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, with that, and there was a complete union between the holy name, now the holy name of Sri Krishna Chaitanya and his soul. They are united, and with that, his soul is out, and or as he has said, Sri Krishna Chaitanya is out of that body. Mahayogeshwara Praya Swachande Maran Bhishmera Niryana Sabara Haila Smaran. As that departure was taking place, Haridas Thakur was departing, everyone was reminded of grandfather Bhishma's departure. That had happened in Kurukshetra. There also, that departure had happened in presence of Sri Krishna, as grandfather Bhishma was taking darshan of Sri Krishna. That departure of Bhishma Dev was remembered, everyone was reminded of as Haridas Thakur in Jagannath Puri as Siddha Bakuls departed. Haridasera tanu Prabhu kole uthaiya angane nachena Prabhu prema vishtahaiya. The next thing was Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has lifted that Vapu, the transcendental form of Haridas Thakur, and Mahaprabhu begins dancing as he has lifted and held Haridas's body in his hands. After then the rest is history. How Haridas Thakur was, and Mahaprabhu is carrying him, or his body is placed in palanquin and brought to the Mahodadhi, the ocean, the banks of Bay of Bengal, Yeah, just at the beach, and he was put into samadhi. Namacharya, and probably you know, Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur's Samadhi Mandir. All Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they never miss the visit of Kasa Kai Karnar, Lokar. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tharine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare everybody. Rama, 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Everybody sing. Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare. Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Jai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Eva Kevalam. Kalo Naseva, 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 Gairanyatha. Hari Nam Sankirtan ki jai. Namacharya Śrīla Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare. Okay, कौन है? What is there? Jaratna? Okay.
Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Take this opportunity to thank the Kirtan Ministry for organizing this beautiful event every EKÀDAŞީ. Every EKÀDAŞÍ, the Kirtan Ministry is organizing this wonderful event, giving us opportunities to hear and chant on EKÀDAŞÍ days. Very grateful for that. So today I'll speak something first, and then maybe last few minutes we'll do some kirtan. Hare Krishna. So Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has created this world for a very specific purpose. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Everything emanates from me. Sarva karana karana. He is the cause of all causes. Krishna, the creator of this material world, identifies this world as dukkhalayam asasvatam. This is the house of misery, residence of misery. Just like when you go to a sweet shop, it's filled with sweets. When you go to a restaurant, it's supposed to be filled with different types of food. When you go to the zoo, you're expecting to see different types of animals, birds, etc. So Krishna created this world, and the creator is naming this place as Dukkhalayam, a place of misery. And whatever little happiness that we may deride after great struggle to get some happiness in this world, it's not very easy. You have to work extremely hard. And finally, when we get that, it's temporary. By the time we, start to feel the pleasure, it's gone. This world is temporary. It's filled with miseries. That is the true nature of this world. And no matter what we do to make the things comfortable, to make the things little better, the situation little better, make a little bit more conducive, by the time you are trying to fix one problem, other problem arises. In this way, there is never ending to the miseries of this world. And Prabhupada says that the sooner we realize the true nature of this world, it's better for us, because then you will know how to deal with it. Now, all of us have this experience of dealing with problems. And every day we are trying to find different ways to solve different problems. Many times, the process of solving a problem is so complicated that it's more miserable than the problem itself that we're trying to solve. So Prabhupada says that whenever you feel some difficulties, I'm reading from a letter to Hayagriva Das, September 9, 1968. And it's so genuine. And Prabhupada is saying this with such love and concern for all of us, because we can relate to this issue. Every living entity can relate to this issue, because we are all facing the same issue every single day of our life. So Prabhupada is saying that whenever you feel some difficulties, the best way to solve that problem, Prabhupada says, chant Hare Krishna. Pray to Krishna to help you. Then there will be no difficulties. Then Prabhupada says, rest assured. Rest assured that you will be able to face the problem, overcome the difficulties, if you surrender to the Supreme Lord through the congregational chanting of the holy name. Prabhupada is taking that guarantee, rest assured, Prabhupada is saying. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada says, in the first canto, 11th chapter, the purport to the third verse, Prabhupada says, the whole material existence is full of problems. Isn't it so true? Not just for certain people, not just for certain section of people, but for all of us. Prabhupada is saying, it's full of problems. Material existence is full of problems. And thus, because it's always so much pain, that we are always fearful. The fear problem is always prominent, Prabhupada says. And all of us are very, very fearful. Why? Why are we so fearful? It is because we do not know the future. We do not know if we will actually wake up in the morning tomorrow alive. We do not know what's going to happen tomorrow. Prabhupada said this is due to our association with the illusory energy of the Lord, known as Maya, or external energy. Because of our contact with the material energy, this fear factor is very, very prominent, Prabhupada says. Yet all fear is vanquished as soon as there is the sound of the Lord. If a fortunate living entities, Bhagyavan Bhakti, fortunate living entities, if they somehow or other take shelter of the holy name, then the fear factor is vanished. Yet all fear is vanquished as soon as there is the sound of the Lord, represented by the holy name as it was sounded by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the following 16 words. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada says we can take advantage of this sound and be free from the threatening problems of material existence. Threatening problem. And it's so true. And because pretty much all the living entities are on the same boat. We're on the same page. We may disagree on different issues, but on this issue, there is no disagreement that this material world is full of miseries and the fear factor is very, very prominent. That there is no doubt. I don't think any sane person will come and say that no, I have no problem, I have never experienced problem. Everything is fine. Prabhupada says two types of people, they're totally happy in this world. One is a Mahabhagavat, the other person is a crazy man. So, but in general, everyone will agree on this principle. Tejas Prabhu, one of Prabhupada's senior disciple, he cites a wonderful pastime relating to the problems and the holy name. That in 1976, in the month of December, Prabhupada visited the Hyderabad farm for 2 weeks. Prabhupada had deputed 3 of his senior disciples to do the service, to look after the project. 3 managing trustees. They were Mahamsa Swami, Hamsaduta Swami, and Tejas Prabhu. So Prabhupada deputed these 3 great souls to look after the project and fulfill the desire of Prabhupada that he had for the Hyderabad farm project. But unfortunately, due to communication gap and other reasons, the relationship between them, the 3 of them, wasn't very conducive, wasn't the most friendly relationship. And because the 3 of them did not have a good relationship among them, naturally it was hampering the project. Prabhupada had a great desire for the Hyderabad farm. And Prabhupada wasn't very happy. Prabhupada understood the problems and Prabhupada was talking to them, was trying to convince them. But they were not in talking terms with each other due to the misunderstanding. As a result of that, naturally, they were all frustrated because they did not know how to move forward. So in order to look for a solace, for direction and inspiration, each of them decided to go and see Prabhupada and seek guidance from Prabhupada. So simultaneously, all three of them at the same time showed up in Prabhupada's doorstep. And what they saw, they were very, very surprised, pleasantly surprised, astonished to see. They saw Prabhupada sitting in his asana in his room, and the sunlight was directly on Prabhupada's transcendental body. It was shining like anything. Prabhupada had his eyes closed and he was chanting on his beads very, very attentively. So three of them, Mahamsa Swami, Hamsaduta Swami, and Tejas Prabhu, sat in front of Prabhupada. They could hear every word Prabhupada was chanting so distinctly clear, with eyes closed. He was totally focused on chanting. Three of them began to chant along with Prabhupada. Prabhupada was chanting for some time, eyes totally closed. Then after some time, Prabhupada opened his eyes. And Prabhupada pronounced, he said, just go on chanting and all your problems will be solved. Just go on chanting and all your problems will be solved. So this was Srila Prabhupada's instruction. If we are serious about solving our problems, no matter what our problem is, no matter how difficult, how complicated the problem may be, the best way to solve the problem is taking shelter of the holy name. Because taking shelter of the holy name means you're directly associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna Surya Sama, Maya hoy andhakar, Jaha Krishna, Taha nahi, Maya Rodhikar. Now, if we are sincerely taking shelter of the holy name, Krishna is there. And wherever there is Krishna, there is no Maya. Wherever there is Krishna, there cannot be suffering. And even if that suffering may be there outwardly, but the devotee who has taken full shelter of the holy name does not get affected by it. We see so many exalted devotees go through so many physical difficulties. But that does not in any way hamper their devotional service in any way whatsoever. So it is so very important for each of us that we take shelter of the holy name. Kalo nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gatiranyatha. In this age of Kali, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. What is the way? Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama iva kevalam. So with these words of Prabhupada, try to take shelter of the holy name if we are serious about solving our problems. Hare Krishna. So we have 7 minutes. We'll just chant. You can join. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kund Bihari Ajnanatirmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swa Padantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschyacha Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I am very thankful to get this opportunity to speak on the subject matter of Srila Prabhupada's 125th appearance anniversary, which is taking place in this year of 2021. So I'm thankful to the Sankirtan ministry for organizing and giving an opportunity to various devotees to speak on this subject matter, which is for every single member of the ISKCON society most important. I am presently actually in South India, where I have less, we could say, good facilities for recording, so I will break this presentation in 3 sections of approximately 15 minutes each, so there will be a little break in between. Kindly bear with me. So naturally, my first part will be trying to understand the importance of what our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, has accomplished and what he continues to accomplish, of course, through his Vani, through his instructions. Never before in the history of mankind, at least in the known history of mankind, has such an endeavor been undertaken in terms of taking fully, completely a whole culture, and not just any culture. We're talking about the Vedic culture, the most ancient culture in the world, taking this out of the country of India and introducing this all over the world within a very, very short period of time. So Srila Prabhupada is truly the spiritual ambassador for India, which is known as the land of Dharma. Srila Prabhupada, by leaving India at the advanced age of 70, on the order of his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he went to the Western countries, traveled extensively, as we all know, and introduced in a very systematic manner this culture, which of course is summarized or known as the Krishna consciousness movement. Of course, also the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Prabhupada has very firmly established the basics upon which this eternal culture of Sanatana Dharma can be and will be established and continued actually for the next 10,000 years. We all know that from Shastra this prediction is there, that although we are presently in the age of Kali, there will be a window, opportunity for the golden age of Satya Yuga to actually become manifest. This has begun with the advent of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 535 years ago, and the activities of Srila Prabhupada mark a very significant phase in terms of introducing and establishing the Sankirtan movement, which is meant to actually propagate the essence of the Vedic culture. And of course, the essence of that Vedic culture, as we know, we hear about the Yuga Dharma, which is based on the chanting of the holy name. Kali Kali Yuga Dharma Harinam Sankirtan Krishna Shakti Vina Nahe Tar Pravartan. That in this age of Kali, the Yuga Dharma is the chanting of the holy name, the spreading of the holy name, but unless one is specifically empowered, one cannot actually spread the Sankirtan movement. So, because our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada has so magnanimously spread widely the message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is essentially as well the message of Lord Krishna, as Lord Chaitanya would instruct, Bolo Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Koro Krishna Shikha. And the essence is actually especially found in the glorious pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam has been, if we study our previous Vaishnava Acharyas, the Srimad Bhagavatam has been the primary focus for all of our Vaishnava Acharyas, beginning with Sridhar Swami. That means even before the advent of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I recall when I first visited a Hare Krishna temple, that was in the fall of 1973 in Ottawa, on Besserer Street. The very first Sunday feast program and the very first lecture, the devotee giving the lecture, of course, spoke about the Bhagavad Gita. I was already familiar with the Bhagavad Gita, somewhat. I had already purchased Bhagavad Gita in my hometown. I had received the Bhagavad Gita as well from a devotee on the street of Rideau, Main Street in Ottawa, which made me actually come to the temple. But it was in that lecture that the president at that time, Dharmaraj Prabhu, made reference to the Vedanta Sutra, first aphorism, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, and then made reference as well to the Srimad Bhagavatam. To me it was a revelation, and this is part of the mission, most important part of the mission of Srila Prabhupada and our Vaishnava Acharyas, is to present the glories of the Srimad Bhagavatam, to make people know that there is such standard and very profound literature, which is described as the graduate study. I mean, Bhagavad Gita is already, at least for most Western people, not so easy initially to grasp. Many get discouraged from the very first chapter because so many names are there, unknown names, and very, very difficult by our own self to figure out, to understand what is actually happening. And therefore I recall one of my godbrothers who was like Bhakta director at the temple at that time, had suggested that I begin reading from the second chapter when Krishna begins to actually instruct Arjuna. And so Bhagavad Gita is like the basic, known as we know it, the ABC of spiritual life. Whereas the Srimad Bhagavatam is a graduate level. And of course we know there's postgraduate level in terms of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Srila Prabhupada has given all of that to all of us, to the whole world. And the whole world has yet to understand and to know this. The whole world has yet to know that there is this literature, this source of knowledge, this Vedic knowledge, this Vedic culture, which contains all the information needed for individuals and for society to actually do things properly, to understand what life is all about, to understand ourselves, etc. So in this way, Srila Prabhupada rightly explained that these transcendental literatures, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam, will be the guiding light for all of mankind, for all of humanity, for the next 10,000 years. So it means that we will continue to glorify and commemorate the appearance of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, for the next 10,000 years. So we are not only those who have joined from the very beginning, all of those who continue to join because of these transcendental literatures and all of the wonderful activities performed by Srila Prabhupada in terms of opening so many temples, in terms of printing and publishing so many literatures, in terms of giving opportunity for conditioned souls to take up to the process of Krishna consciousness, in terms as well of establishing farm communities which are meant to serve as a prototype for the standard lifestyle which we find in the Vedic culture. And I'll come back to that a little bit later on, which are actually villages. So there is an abundance of wealth, naturally, that Srila Prabhupada has profusely disseminated all over the world, and therefore we naturally remain eternally indebted to him. So in this second section that I will present very shortly, I would like to especially share some of the various quotes and instructions given by Srila Prabhupada, either in some of his lectures, conversations, or from the purports from the Srimad Bhagavatam especially. And in this way, I'd like to focus especially on one area that was very dear to Srila Prabhupada, who spoke about this very much, and I'll try to explain a little bit its significance, especially in the context of our modern modern day society today. It is actually amazing, at least it's amazing to me, that someone like Srila Prabhupada, who described himself as a city boy, isn't it? Being born in Calcutta. Srila Prabhupada did not appear in a village, did not take birth in a village atmosphere. But being such an elevated personality, having such clear consciousness, being a pure devotee of the Lord, Uttamadhikari, Srila Prabhupada could very clearly understand the direction in which modern day society is going. And he therefore knew what the remedy would be. I'm sure we all have heard how Srila Prabhupada explained that we should not misunderstand our Krishna consciousness movement simply to be a spiritual or religious movement. It is, of course. It deals with spirituality and the topmost level of spirituality, bringing us to that ultimate and highest realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In addition to the Krishna consciousness movement being a spiritual movement, Srila Prabhupada explained our movement is also an educational movement. Our movement is also a cultural movement. And thirdly, our movement is also a social movement. We know actually that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is referred to as the great social reformer of his time, 500 years ago. So, why did Srila Prabhupada stress this point, that the Krishna consciousness movement is simultaneously spiritual movement, educational movement, cultural movement, as well as social movement? Beginning with the aspect of education. We know that Srila Prabhupada introduced in the Western world the traditional system of Gurukula, which he also introduced here in India. And Srila Prabhupada wanted very much that this type of education, because this is the standard Vedic education, where young boys receive particular training based on the traditional sciences that are described as Chatur Vidya. There are 4 standard, unchanging sciences which make up the curriculum in traditional Vedic education, beginning with the science of philosophy, called Anvikshiki, followed by the science of education, or Trayi, then followed by the science of politics, Dandaniti, and then the last, the 4th, the science of economics, known as Varta. In addition to Gurukul, Srila Prabhupada, he understood that Gurukul is actually the basis upon which society can be established. Gurukul is the basis upon which young boys and young men can receive training in the traditional, standard, unchanging sciences that make up our Vedic culture, which more easily and more quickly enables individuals and enables society to actually reach the ultimate goal of life, which is full, complete self-realization in terms of Krishna consciousness, developing our love for Krishna. In addition to Gurukula, we all know that Srila Prabhupada spoke about Varnashram College. Varnashram College is, we could say, an extension of the Gurukula. Traditionally, actually, there was no need of Varnashram College, in that Gurukula itself, when the Vedic culture was more established, within Gurukula, all of the different aspects that can be found, are meant to be found in Varnashram College, were also included. Srila Prabhupada was very strong on this point. So this is also education. And in that context, we have a group of devotees actually last year established to try and fulfill Srila Prabhupada's vision, Srila Prabhupada's mission, what is called Varnashram College Online. Last year, as we know, of course, with this global pandemic, practically everybody went online. And likewise, we thought that the basic principles of Varnashram College could be introduced online as well. So this has to do with education, something that Prabhupada very strongly spoke about and wanted us to introduce. Secondly, the movement of Krishna consciousness is meant to be a cultural movement. Culture entails lifestyle. Culture entails how we should be living. And there are very specific instructions, of course, both in the Shastra and also as explained by our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. And we can understand this especially in the context, as I was mentioning a little earlier, of our modern day society. So Srila Prabhupada, you may recall as well, made reference to what is known as village organization when referring to Gandhi. How Gandhi was very much promoting the ideals of simple lifestyle, simple living and high thinking. And the introduction, the first community, the first rural community introduced in the West, as we know, was in New Vrindavan. And Srila Prabhupada afterwards encouraged devotees and visited also places like Gita Nagari, New Talavan in the West, and encouraged devotees to start such communities. Not only he introduced farm communities, but Srila Prabhupada spoke of this lifestyle as being the standard and ideal lifestyle within Vedic culture. And therefore, we should be giving much, much, much more attention than we have so far to this dimension or aspect of Krishna consciousness being a cultural movement where we combine together our spiritual practices and a lifestyle that is more conducive for practicing this culture. And of course, the third, social movement. Krishna consciousness is meant to also be a social movement. And what does that mean? Social movement means in connection with society. Srila Prabhupada wanted and expected that this movement help bring about social changes. Of course, Srila Prabhupada was very realistic and explained that we don't expect the whole of humanity, the whole of society, to adopt the lifestyle that we have spiritually, nor to adopt the lifestyle that we should have materially in terms of agrarian lifestyle. When we speak of villages, and this also was explained by Srila Prabhupada, we think about the original village, about the ideal village, about Vrindavan village. And therefore Srila Prabhupada wanted us to make Vrindavan villages. And there are some quotes which I will present in the third section of my of my talk, which are extremely important and which give a very clear and strong support actually to these statements. So social reforms, Srila Prabhupada, his vision was that obviously we cannot force or we cannot impose such reforms. But the best way that we can actually make an impact in society, the best way we can bring about positive influence is for ourselves, both individually and as communities, to actually demonstrate what is meant to be the ideal lifestyle. Srila Prabhupada once wrote to one of his disciples, I believe he was somewhere outside of India, that when I next come to India, I want to travel from village to village. Please arrange a vehicle, because Srila Prabhupada understood the importance of villages. Villages are the backbone. And of course in the villages, what is the backbone of village? It is cows. Cows. Therefore, when we speak of culture and lifestyle, we speak of cow-based culture. Vedic culture is a cow-based culture. And therefore, in the last few years, some of our devotees in India, especially connected with the ISKCON Daiva Varnasrama ministry, which is a national ministry in India, conducted various conferences, cow culture conferences. A cow culture conference is not simply glorifying and explaining the importance of cows per se, but a cow culture conference puts things into perspective in terms of what is meant to be the ideal lifestyle, what is actually the Vedic lifestyle as demonstrated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, Lord Krishna, 5,000 years ago when He appeared and performed His Leela in Mathura Vrindavan. So therefore, there's a great need for discussing these topics, the topic of education, the topic of culture, and of course, social movement. Social movement specifically, when we speak of society, this is in the Bhagavad Gita itself. Prabhupada explains, when we speak about sociology, we naturally mean the society based on the scientific arrangement of Varna and Asrama. And Srila Prabhupada specifically told his American disciples once, I'm sure more than once, telling how you American boys and girls, you should introduce the Brahminical culture in North America. You should introduce the Kshatriya culture in North America. And in this way, the whole world will follow you. The whole world will follow America if America follows the Vedic culture, which is based on Varnashrama Dharma. So, in my third section that I'll give in a few seconds, I want to especially focus on various quotations from Srila Prabhupada, and in this way, hopefully that will solidify some of the statements that I have made, which are directly the statements given by Srila Prabhupada. So I have some very nice quotes that I would like to share with all of you, and three in particular, and then there'll be a few more afterwards. This first one is of course known to all of our devotees. We recite this, whoever is a pujari, when making an offering on the altar, from the Vishnu Purana, 1:1965, and I quote, Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. My Lord, you are the well-wisher of the cows and the brahmanas, and you are the well-wisher of the entire human society and the world. Srila Prabhupada, as we know, went to the Western countries to introduce Brahminical culture. Vedic culture means Brahminical culture. But Brahminical culture doesn't stop simply at creating brahmanas. Brahminical culture includes Kshatriya culture, includes Vaishya culture, includes Shudra culture. They are all cultures. Second quote is from the Mahabharata, from the Haribamsa Parva 55.31. Tratavya pratamam gava trataha trayanti tadvijan go brahmana paritrane paritratam jagat bhavet. Translation: first of all, cows should be protected. Cows thus protected will in turn protect the brahmanas. And the brahmanas, we know, are meant to protect the whole society. So just repeating this. First of all, cows should be protected. Cows thus protected will in turn protect the brahmanas. Thus, when protection of cows and brahmanas is achieved, then the whole world is protected. And the third quote from the Light of the Bhagavat text, or section 27. Srila Prabhupada writes, those who are serious to cultivate the human spirit must turn their attention first toward the question of cow protection. Our villages in India and our villages all over the world, well, in some places there are no more villages practically. Villages are on the way of extinction. And of course, cows and bulls in these villages, in many places, I have personal experience, are also, in many places, have already, practically speaking, in some places already have been extinguished. And this is very, very critical, because it means that the very basis and backbone of our Vedic culture on a daily basis is being threatened. And Srila Prabhupada was very, very much aware of this. And therefore, I'll quote just a few statements from Srila Prabhupada where he wanted us to actually, okay, in one sense, he wanted us to be within this modern culture to preach Krishna consciousness, but one of the foremost messages that he wanted us to get across to people, especially in the cities, is that city life is not the standard life, cities as they exist today. Because for the vast majority of people, village life, rural life, simple life. And just a few quotes on this. This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, chapter 29, 54. There should be a thorough overhauling of the social system, and society should revert to the Vedic principles, that is, the 4 Varnas and the 4 Ashramas. And in a lecture given at Gita Nagari in July, Gita Nagari Farm, July 15th, 1976, live village life. Live village life, simple life, and be satisfied with the bare necessities. This town life, industrial life, factory life is asuric life. It is killing human ambition. It is killing civilization, you see. And how to solve, because one of the main concerns or problems in the world today, of course, is the problem of economics. Practically every country or nation in the world, its main focus is on what is known as economic development. Here's what Prabhupada has to say in that respect. Human society needs only sufficient grain and sufficient cows to solve its economic problems. All other things but these two are artificial necessities created by man to kill his valuable life at the human level and waste time in things which are not needed. On many occasions, in various discussions and exchanges with his disciples, Srila Prabhupada would point out how Vedic culture stresses the importance of being localized. All of our problems, all of our transportation problem, economic problem, food problem, health problem, health issues, will be solved more easily and very quickly if we become localized. Localized means that actually is one of the instructions given by Chanakya Pandit. For people to be happy, 2 things are necessary: that we become localized, and secondly, that we don't incur debts. So, of course, there are many other statements, and this is most important on this most auspicious year of 2021, commemorating Srila Prabhupada's 125th appearance anniversary. We should especially focus and try to understand his Vani. Of the 2, as we know from Shastra, Vapu and Vani. Vapu meaning the physical presence of the spiritual master. The Vani, the instructions of the Guru, are most important. And therefore, ISKCON as a society, the Krishna consciousness movement as a global movement, actually has answers. We can say very boldly, has all the answers to solve all of the global problems existing today. We, because of the knowledge given from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam that we are cultivating as devotees, if we actually properly cultivate this knowledge, we will be able to very clearly see and understand where the root problems are in modern day society at all the different levels. And Srila Prabhupada was fully, completely aware of modern day's malady, disease, which is of course major deviation from the principles of Dharma. So Srila Prabhupada was that personality who was able to introduce to us the full meaning and understanding of Dharma, which is meant to be understood at two very important levels. Srila Prabhupada refers to material swadharma and spiritual swadharma. What is our spiritual swadharma? Swadharma means what is natural, what is according to our nature. What is the spiritual swadharma? Srila Prabhupada explains, of the living entity, and then Prabhupada explains, Jiver Swaruphoy Krishna Nityadas. We are the eternal servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as eternal spirit souls. And as long as we don't take up that position of being a servant of the Supreme Lord, we cannot be happy. That is spiritual swadharma. And in terms of material swadharma, Srila Prabhupada explains, material swadharma is what is more natural in terms of how we should live materially within this material world, which is based on, as we mentioned earlier, as Srila Prabhupada also stated, which is based on the eternal principles of Varna and Ashrama, which is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita. Chaturvanyam maya srisam guna karma swabhavasaha. Swabhagaha. And I just want to possibly end here by quoting from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, whereby he stresses this aspect of Varnashrama Dharma in relation to our spiritual development. And this is taken from the Sajani Toshani, section 2 and text 7. Those who have sufficiently studied sociology certainly conclude that the system of Varnasrama is the topmost social system. Same thing that Prabhupada is telling us. If one is situated in the principles of Varnasrama, then his nature cannot be lost. It means that if we're not following properly Varnasrama Dharma, our nature, both material and spiritual, more easily can be lost, unfortunately. Rather, one can receive huge opportunity and advantage to cultivate Krishna consciousness by agreeing to work and serve within the God-given system. Prabhupada refers to Varnashrama Dharma as divine culture. Divine culture. And this last quote here from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur as well. Varnashrama Dharma is the society of the Vaishnavas in their conditional stage. Varnashrama is the society of the Vaishnavas in their conditional stage. So once again, let us take this opportunity to remember the unparalleled and most glorious contribution of our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. He has yet to be known by the vast majority of the people in the world. Gradually, actually every day, as our preaching activities continue, especially as book distribution takes place. But Srila Prabhupada wanted us also to show by example. He wanted us to establish communities which are models of the Vrindavan village community, so that people can see what is actually the standard and this way become attracted, and those who are fortunate will take advantage and join those communities or associate with the members of those communities. Once again, I thank very much the Ministry of Sankirtan for organizing this program, and may we all become and remain inspired by the words and instructions given by our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
By offering our respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, founder of Krishna consciousness. Let us offer our respectful obeisances to the Vrindavan Lords, Nitai Gaur, Krishna Balaram, Radhe Shyam, Tulsi Devi, the Govardhan Hill, Jamuna, the Vraj Raj. So we're presenting this morning from beautiful Vrindavan Dham, and we would like to start with this prayer to Srila Prabhupada, and you can all join in. It's a wonderful prayer. In America, every day after Guru Puja, we would recite this beautiful prayer to Srila Prabhupada. And so let's all say this nice prayer together in English. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. We bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross over the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection which fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, please be merciful unto us. Please give us the shelter of your lotus feet. Jai Srila Prabhupada. We give our lives to you to push on this wonderful ISKCON mission. So today's story is about NIRJALA, EKÀDAŞÍ, and so it begins like this. During the hottest season for the northern hemisphere, do we hear peacocks? If one can perform upavasa without water, one is performing a great feat. One may take only charanamrita and achman water. Bhima requested one vrat day by which he could obtain the fruits of all the other days of vrat that he was incapable of observing. Vyasadeva advised him to follow this difficult vrat. One should worship the Lord in the evening by bathing him in milk. On the Dwadasi, one should give full pots of water to brahmanas and feed them before breaking one's fast. Samvatsarashya madhye ekādāśyo bhavantihi tasam phalam avapnoti putra me nanat samsaya. Putra me natra samsaya iti mam keshava praha chakra gradhara. Prabhupada so brilliantly taught us how to sing Sanskrit verses. And it's so beautiful. I'm not very good at it, but it's so beautiful to hear these mantras. So that came from the Hari Bhakti Vilas, from the Padma Purana, Vyasadeva speaking to Bhimasena. O son, Lord Keshava, who holds the club, disc, conch, and lotus flower in his hand, personally told me that all of the merit achieved by fasting on whatever Ekādāśīs fall in 1 year can be attained by fasting on this one Ekādāśī, or NIRJALA EKādAŠÍ. Of this, there is no doubt. Atmadroha kritastestu yaresha na upasita papatyatmo no durachara dustaste natra samsaya. That also came from the Hari Bhakti Vilas, from the Padma Purana, Vyasadeva speaking to Bhimasena. Anyone who does not fast on this particular Ekādāśī, or NIRJALA EKādAŠÍ, they should be understood to be sinful, corrupted, and suicidal without a doubt. So this is the story of PANDAVA NIRJALA EKādAŠī. Once, Bhimasena, the younger brother of Maharaj Yudhisthira, asked the great sage Srila Vyasadeva, the grandfather of the Pandavas, if it is possible to return to the spiritual world without having observed all the rules and regulations of the Ekādāśī fast. Bhimasena then spoke as follows. O greatly intelligent and learned grandfather, my brother Yudhisthira, my dear mother Kunti, and my beloved wife Draupadi, as well as Arjuna, Nakul, and Sahadev, excuse me, fast completely on each Ekādāśī and strictly follow all the rules, regulations, and guidelines of that sacred day. Being very religious, they always tell me that I should also fast on that day too. But, O learned grandfather, I tell them that I cannot live without eating, because as the son of Vayudev, Samana Pran, the digestive air, hunger is unbearable to me. This is Bhima. I can give widely in charity and worship Lord Keshava properly with all manner of wonderful upacharas or items, but I cannot be asked to fast on Ekādāśī. Excuse me. Please tell me how I can obtain the same merits result without fasting. Bhima replied, O greatly saintly intelligent grandfather, please listen to my plea. O greatest of Munis, since I cannot live if I eat only once in a day, how can I possibly live if I fast completely? Within my stomach burns a special fire named Vrika, or the fire of digestion. Agni, the fire god, descends from Lord Vishnu through Brahma, from Brahma to Angirasa, from Angirasa to Brihaspati, and from Brihaspati to Samyu, who is Agni's father. He is the gatekeeper in charge of Nairiti, the southeastern direction. He is one of the 8 material elements, and Parikshit Maharaj, he is very expert at examining things. He examined Marashibi once by turning into a dove. For further information on this incident, we can see Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's Srimad Bhagavatam, the commentary to 112.20. 112.20. You can look up that purport today. Agni is divided into 3 categories: Devagni, or the fire in wood; Jagaragni, the fire in the digestion in the stomach; and Vadavagni, the fire that creates fog when hot and cold steams mix in, for example, like in the ocean. Another name for the fire of digestion is Vrika. It is this powerful fire that resided in Bhima's stomach. Here they are. Only when I eat to my full satisfaction does the fire in my stomach become satisfied. O great sage, I might possibly be able to fast only once, so I beg that you tell me of an Ekādāśī that is worthy of my fasting, and that includes all other Ekādāśīs. I shall faithfully observe that fast and hopefully still become liberated. Srila Vyasadeva replied, O king, you have heard from me about the various kinds of occupational duties, such as elaborate Vedic ceremonies and pujas. In the Kali Yuga, however, no one will be able to observe all these occupational and functional duties properly. I shall therefore tell you how, at practically no expense, one can endure some small austerity and achieve the greatest benefit and resultant happiness. The essence of what is written in the Vedic literatures, known as the Puranas, that one should not eat on either fortnight Ekādāśīs. As in Bhagavatam, the Mahabhagavat Puranam, 13:12 and 15, the Bhagavat Puranam is for philosophy. Seems like we're getting It's getting hung up a little bit, but that's Vrindavan. Bhagavatam's unequivocal message is that of full surrender to Lord Krishna and the rendering of loving devotional service to Krishna. One who fasts on EKÀDAŞΗ, the hellish planets, hear Vyasadev's words, the son of Vayu, Bhimasena, the strongest of all warriors, became frightened and began to shake on a banyan tree in a strong wind. The frightened Bhimasena then said, "O grandfather, what should I do? I am completely unable and ill-equipped to fast twice in a month throughout the year. Please tell me of the one fast." Vyasadeva replied, "Without drinking even water, you should fast on the EKÂDAŞΗ." I don't know, it's getting hung up on my side. I guess it's just Vrindavan or something. Okay, something with control. Okay, so let's see, get the flow going again. Bhima solution. Why? Because he can't fast. So now he wants to know if there's anything he can do to get the merits of fasting on EKÂDAŞΗ. So Vyasadeva replied, "Without drinking even water, you should fast on the EKÂDAŞΗ that occurs in Jayas, or May, June, when the sun travels in the sign of Taurus and Gemini. Regular personalities on this day, one while performing Achman, one may drink only that amount of water equal to a drop of gold, or that amount it takes to immerse a single mustard seed." In other words, not very much water. Only this amount of water should be placed in the right palm for sipping, which one should form to resemble a cow's ear. If one drinks more water than this, he might as well have drunk wine, despite the soaring heat of summer in the northern hemisphere and cold in the southern hemisphere. It's really hot here in Vrindavan right now. But this is what's so cooling, is the pastimes of Krishna. One must certainly not eat anything, for if he does so, he breaks his fast. This rigid fast is in effect from sunrise on the EKÂDAŞΗ day to sunrise on the Dwadasi day. If a person endeavors to observe this great fast very strictly, he easily achieves the result of observing all 24 other EKÂDAŞIs throughout the entire year. On Dwadasi, the devotee should bathe early in the morning. Then, according to the prescribed rules, guidelines, and regulative injunctions, and of course, depending on his ability, very important point, and of course, depending on his ability, he should give some gold and water to worthy brahmanas. Finally, he should cheerfully honor prasadam with a brahmana, or with the devotees. O Bhimasena, one who can fast on this special EKÂDAŞΗ in this manner reaps the benefit of having fasted on every EKÂDAŞI during the year. There is no doubt of this, nor should there be. O Bhima, now... Are we all in Vrindavan now? By the side of Jamuna, we're all hearing together. O Bhima, now hear the specific merit one gets by fasting on this NIRJALA EKÂDAŞΗ. The Supreme Lord Krishna, who holds a conch, disc, club, and lotus, personally told me this. Everyone should take shelter of me and follow my instructions. Then he told me that one who fasts on this EKÂDAŞÍ without taking even water or eating becomes free of all sinful reactions, and that one who observes the difficult NIRJALA fast on Jayasta Shukla EKÂDAŞÍ truly reaps the benefit of all other EKÂDAŞÍ fasts. O Bhimasena, in the Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, when all the principles of the Vedas will have been destroyed or greatly minimized, and when there will be no proper charity or observance of the ancient Vedic principles and ceremonies, how will there be any means of purifying the self? But there is the opportunity to fast on this EKÂDAŞÍ and become free of all one's past sins. O son of Vayu, who is the son of Vayu? Right, Bhimasena. O son of Vayu, what more can I say to you? You should not eat during the EKÂDAŞÍs that occur during the dark and light fortnights, and you should even give up drinking water. Nir means no, and Jala means water. Nirjal. On the particularly auspicious EKÂDAŞÍ day of Jaya Shukla EKÂDAŞÍ. O Vrikadara, voracious eater, that's another name for Bhima, isn't it? Vrikadara. Whoever fasts on this EKÂDAŞÍ receives the merit of bathing in all the places of pilgrimage, giving all kinds of charities to worthy persons, and fasting on all of the dark and light EKÂDAŞÍs throughout the year in one go. Of this there is no doubt. O tiger among men, whoever fasts on this EKÂDAŞÍ truly becomes a great person and achieves all manner of opulence and wealth, grains, strength, and health. And at the fearful moment of death, the terrible Yamadutas, whose complexions are yellow and black, and who brandish huge maces and twirl mystic pasha ropes in the air for binding their victims, these Yamadutas will refuse to approach such a person following this NIRJALA EKÂDAŞÍ. Rather, such a faithful soul will at once be taken to the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu by the Vishnudutas, whose transcendently beautiful forms are clothed in gorgeous yellowish garments, and who each hold a disc, club, conch, and lotus in their 4 hands, resembling Lord Vishnu. It is to gain all these benefits that one should certainly fast on this very auspicious and important EKÂDAŞÍ, even from water. When the other Pandavas heard about the benefits to be gained by following Jayasta Shukla EKÂDAŞÍ, they resolved to observe it exactly as their grandfather Srila Vyasadeva had explained it to their brother Bhimasena. All the Pandavas observed it by refraining from eating or drinking anything, and thus this day is also known as PANDAVA NIRJAL Dwadasi and EKÂDAŞÍ. Srila Vyasadeva continued, O Bhimasena, therefore you should observe this important fast to remove all your past sinful reactions. Whether the sins, it went up. Okay, so Srila Vyasadeva continued, O Bhimasena, therefore you should observe this important fast to remove all your past sinful reactions. you should pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, in this way making your Sankalpa declaration. O Lord of all the Devas, O Supreme Lord, today I shall observe EKÀDAŞÍ without taking even water. O unlimited Anantadev, I shall break fast on the next day of Dwadasi. Thereafter, to remove all his sins, the devotee should honor this EKÀDAŞÍ fast with full faith in the Lord and with full control over his senses. Whether his sins are equal in volume to Mount Sumeru or to Mandrachala Hill, if he or she observes this EKÀDAŞÍ, the sins that have been accumulated all become nullified and are burned to ashes. Such is the great power of this EKÀDAŞÍ. Excuse me. Got a little Vraj frog in my throat. O best of human beings, although a person should also give water and cows in charity during this EKÀDAŞÍ, if for some reason or other he cannot, then he should give a qualified Brahmana some cloth or a pot filled with water. So there, if we can't follow so strictly, then we can give a qualified Brahmana, which would mean a dear devotee, some cloth or a pot filled with water. Indeed, the merit achieved by giving water alone equals that gained by giving gold 10 million times a day. O Bhima, Lord Krishna has said that whoever observes this EKÀDAŞÍ should take a holy bath, give charity to a worthy person, chant the Lord's holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and perform some kind of recommended sacrifice. For by doing these things on this day, one receives imperishable benefits. Sorry. There is no need to perform any other kind of religious duty. Observance of this EKÀDAŞÍ alone promotes one to the supreme abode of Sri Vishnu. O best of the Kurus, if one donates gold, cloth, or anything else on this day, the merit one obtains is imperishable. Remember, whoever eats any grains on EKÀDAŞÍ becomes contaminated by sin, and verily eats only sin. In effect, he has already become a dog-eater, and after death he observes or suffers a hellish existence. By he who observes this sacred Jayasta Shukla EKÀDAŞÍ and gives something in charity, certainly achieves liberation from the cycle of repeated birth and death and attains to the supreme abode. So we can all give some cloth or a pot of water to our neighbor, family member. Observing this EKÀDAŞÍ, which is merged with Dwadasi, frees one from the horrible sin of killing a Brahmana, drinking liquor and wine, becoming envious of one's spiritual master, and ignoring his instructions, and continually telling lies. Furthermore, O best of beings, Jivatma, any man or woman who observes this fast properly and worships the Supreme Lord, Jalshai, or he who sleeps on the water, and who on the next day satisfies a qualified Brahmana with nice sweets and a donation of cows and money, such a person certainly pleases the Supreme Lord Vasudeva, so much so that 100 previous generations in his family undoubtedly go to the Supreme Lord's abode, even though they may have been very sinful, of bad character, and guilty of suicide, etc. So we're not only performing this wonderful Pandava EKādAŠī for our own purification, but for hundreds of generations. That's so wonderful. Indeed, one who observes this amazing EKādAŠī rides on a glorious celestial airplane to the Lord's abode. One who on this day gives a Brahmana a water pot, an umbrella, or shoes certainly goes to the heavenly planets. So we can do that. We can give shoes to someone. We can give a water pot or an umbrella. Indeed, he who simply hears these glories also attains to the transcendental abode of the Supreme Lord, Sri Vishnu. Whoever performs the Shraddha ceremony to the forefathers on the dark moon day called Amavasya, particularly if it occurs at the time of a solar eclipse, undoubtedly achieves great merit. But this same merit is achieved by him who simply hears observe this EKādAŠī to please the Supreme Lord, Keshava. On the day after EKādAŠī, one should wear a slightly burning lamp. So see, most of us are doing this every day anyway. O God of gods, O deliverer of everyone, O Rishikesha, master of the senses, kindly bestow upon me the gift of liberation than this humble pot filled with water. So we can all do that. Then the devotee should donate the water pot to a Brahmana or a devotee of the Lord. O Bhimasena, after this EKādAŠī fast and donating the recommended items according to his ability, the devotee should feed Brahmanas and thereafter honor prasadam silently. Srila Vyasadeva concluded, I strongly urge you to fast on this auspicious, purifying, sin-devouring Dwadasi in just the way I have outlined. Thus you will be completely freed of all sins and reach the supreme abode. Thus ends the narration of the glories of Jayasta Shukla EKādAŠī, or Bhimaseni NIRJALA EKādAŠī, PANDAVA NIRJALA EKādAŠī, from the Brahma Vaivarta Purana. So of course we know that Srila Prabhupada encouraged us always to refrain from eating beans and grains on this day and chant 25 rounds, to read more about the pastimes of Krishna, Srila Prabhupada. There's so many wonderful books that Prabhupada has given us. It would take us lifetimes. I find every time I read Bhagavad Gita again or Krishna book again, we always find something new, don't we? Something that, oh, I didn't read that the first time. Or maybe, we perceive what Prabhupada is telling us in a deeper reflective way. So this was always the focus on EKādAŠīs. And today, of course, if we can refrain from drinking water or eating, that's very nice. But remember, we were reading according to one's ability. So for older people, let's say, 65 and over, one should take care if he's taking medicines or has some high blood pressure or something medical that could be a problem by not drinking water, then we should, use our common sense. Prabhupada said, common sense is Krishna consciousness. And if you don't have any, then you find someone who does. Many times I have to go to someone who has some common sense and can guide me. Krishna, through the devotees, guiding us. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam classes here in ISKCON Vrindavan, we're in the 10th canto, and we're reading all about the childhood pastimes, actually the baby pastimes of Krishna with Mother Yashoda. So we just finished chapter 8, Mother Yashoda seeing the universal form in Krishna's mouth. So now we're on the binding Lord Krishna. And just the other day, it was being described how the milk was boiling on the stove. And Mother Yashoda, of course, she had gone to give baby Krishna her breast milk. So Lokanath Swami, His Holiness Lokanath Swami, and Daiva Shakti Prabhu the other day, so many devotees have described how in Goloka Vrindavan, everything is conscious. So even the milk is conscious. And so the milk was saying, oh, my life is useless. If I can't offer my services to baby Krishna, then I should just jump in the fire. And so then the milk proceeded to boil over into the fire. And Prabhupada tells us that everything is conscious in the spiritual world, isn't it? The water, the trees, so-called inanimate objects. And so the devotees of Krishna, we relish hearing these pastimes of Krishna. And this is what Prabhupada has given us, these amazing pastimes of Lord Krishna, which then removes different kinds of unhappiness from our mind and helps us to cross over, as we were saying in the beginning, the ocean of material suffering and oceans of difficulties and obstacles. And simply by hearing these pastimes of Lord Krishna and the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada and the great acharyas, there's an experience that we get, isn't it? We can't mistake that experience that we feel when Krishna takes our consciousness from the mundane level of perceptions, and it makes us feel happy to hear about Krishna. And this is very wonderful. So today, if we have a little bit of time, I was going to read from Krishna book, and this would be chapter 19, Devouring the Forest Fire. Last night, we were sharing Krishna consciousness with about 50 parents and teachers, and they were asking me about, how it was to grow up in America, and I was sharing with them that our concept, in Christianity was that God was like an old man. You probably have seen some of those pictures where, an old man is coming out of the cloud, and we were kind of told that, he was God. And then I was showing them that this was the first book that I got when I met the devotees in Washington, D.C. in 72, 73. And they told me that this is God. And I went, wow, he's so beautiful. And then they described to me how God never gets old. He never grows old. He's always beautiful. He's always wonderful. He's always powerful. He's this strength of the strong. And so this started to make more sense to me. And this is what Prabhupada has so kindly given us, is the pastimes of God in a very personal way so that we can develop this loving relationship. We were hearing from Prabhupada the other day how again, Prabhupada saying that this whole process is all about loving Krishna. So also in having loving relationships with each other. We have the 6 loving exchanges, don't we? So we can share loving exchanges and be conscious of giving more to each other. And of course, we have that those 6 exchanges described to us by Rupa Goswami: giving and sharing confidential exchanges, giving and accepting prasadam, and giving and accepting, what's the last 2? Yes, gifts. And gifts doesn't necessarily have to be something material. It can be the gift of your time. It can be the gift of, excuse me, can be the gift of your caring for someone else, encouraging somebody else. So these things, when we practice these loving exchanges on EKÀDAŞΗ, then we get so much more the benefit, as we were hearing. Okay, so without further ado, this is called Devouring the Forest Fire. Chapter 19. While Krishna and Balaram and their friends were engaged in the pastimes, the cows, being unobserved, began to wander off on their own, entering farther and farther into the deepest part of the forest, allured by fresh grasses. The goats, cows, and buffalo traveled from one forest to another and entered the forest known as EKÂDAŞީ. This forest was full of green grass, and therefore they were allured. But when they entered, they saw that there was a forest fire, and they began to cry, "Krishna! Balaram! Krishna! Balaram!" On the other side, Balaram and Krishna, along with their friends, they could not find their animals, and they became very aggrieved. They began to trace the cows by following their footprints, as well as the path of eaten grass. All of the boys were fearing that their very means of livelihood, their friends, the cows, were now lost. When searching out the cows in the forest, they themselves were very tired and thirsty. Soon, however, they heard the crying of their cows. Krishna began to call the cows by their respective names. Krishna knew all of his cows by their names. With great noise, to get some stronger reading glasses. Upon hearing Krishna calling, the cows immediately replied with joy, "Mmm, mmm." But by this time, the forest fire had surrounded all of them, and the situation appeared to be very fearful. The flames increased as the wind blew very quickly, and it appeared that everything movable and immovable would be devoured. All the cows and the boys became very frightened, and they looked toward Balaram and Krishna the way a dying man looks at the picture of the Supreme Lord. They said, "My dear Krishna, my dear Balaram, you and Balaram are very powerful. We are now burning from the heat of this blazing fire. Please let us take shelter of your lotus feet. We know you can protect us from this great danger. Our dear friend Krishna, we are your intimate friends. It is not right that we should suffer in this way. We are all completely dependent on you, and you are the knower of all religious life. We do not know anyone except you." The personality of God, Sri Krishna, heard the voices of his friends, and casting a pleasing glance over them, he began to answer. By speaking through his eyes, he impressed upon his friends that there was no cause for fear, and he assured them, "Don't worry." Then Krishna, the supreme mystic, the powerful personality of Godhead, immediately swallowed up all the flames of the fire. The cows and boys were thus saved from imminent danger. Out of fear, the boys were almost unconscious, but when they regained their consciousness and opened their eyes, there they saw their wonderful friend, Krishna, and Balaram, and all their cows. They were astonished to see that they were completely free from the attack of the blazing fire, and that the cows were all saved as well. They secretly thought that Krishna must not be an ordinary boy, but he must be some demigod. In the evening, Krishna and Balaram, along with the boys and the cows, returned to Vrindavan, playing their flutes. As they approached the village of Vrindavan, all the gopis became very joyful. Throughout the day, the gopis used to think of Krishna while he was in the forest, and in his absence, they were considering one moment to be like 12 years or more. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 19th chapter of Krishna, devouring the forest fire. So we have a little bit more time. I was going to pick out another short one. How about killing the demon Pralambasura? Remember, just by hearing these pastimes of Krishna, we're receiving unlimited benefit, unlimited blessings. Like we're being showered with unlimited merits of especially hearing these pastimes on EKÀDAŞÍ. Such a beautiful process Prabhupada has given us. And just see how he's given us Krishna book so that we can relish the pastimes of Krishna in such a wonderful way. And sharing together in the association of devotees. It's very wonderful when we can hear these pastimes together. After extinguishing the devastating fire, Lord Krishna, surrounded by his relatives, friends, cows, calves, and bulls, and glorified by his friends singing, he again entered Vrindavan, which is always full of cows. While Krishna and Balaram were enjoying life in Vrindavan, in the midst of the cowherd boys and girls, the season gradually changed to summer. The summer season in India is not very much welcomed because of the excessive heat. But in Vrindavan, everyone was pleased because summer there appeared just like spring. This was possible only because Lord Krishna and Balaram, who are the controllers even of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, were residing there. Just like when Prabhupada was on the planet, although there was so many things going on that were, confusing or disturbing, still because of the pure devotee walking on this planet, there was a beauty, there was a wonderful, sublime feeling in the atmosphere. And just like, remember when Lord Chaitanya was on the planet, there was a big rise of the arts all over the world. Everyone was relishing different kinds of creative, artistic, divine feelings. So in the same way, we're so fortunate that although Prabhupada's body has gone back to Goloka Vrindavan to engage in these pastimes, still we can relish the presence of Srila Prabhupada through reading his books. It's very wonderful. The inhabitants of Vrindavan were never disturbed by the scorching heat of the sun or the high summer temperatures. The lakes of Vrindavan are surrounded by green grasses, and various kinds of lotus flowers bloom there, such as the kunja and utpala, and the air blowing in Vrindavan carries the aromatic pollen of these lotus flowers. When the particles of water from the waves of the Jamuna, the lakes and the waterfalls touched the bodies of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they automatically felt a cooling effect. Therefore, they were practically undisturbed by the summer season. Just like all of us in Vrindavan, we get up for the morning program, and then throughout the day, we do our services, and then in the evening, again, some sadhana. Prabhupada called that the sandwich program, remember? With our sadhana, and then the service, and then the sadhana on the top. So simply by engaging and hearing these pastimes of Krishna, there's a very cooling effect. And we're very blessed because it is really hot here, but we get the cooling mercy, the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada in these wonderful books that Prabhupada has given us. Vrindavan is such a nice place. Flowers are always blooming, and there are even various kinds of decorated deer. Birds are chirping, peacocks are crowing and dancing, and bees are humming. The cuckoos there sing nicely in 5 kinds of tunes. So we want to be like the bee, right? We want to be like the bee, looking for the honey in each of us, in each of the devotees, and seeing Krishna in everything and everyone. We don't want to be like the fly, right? that goes after the stool, or in other words, fault finding and looking for things that aren't so good. We can take up our time and energy to see what is good, and to see, as Bhagavad Gita tells us, for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. So that's 6:30. That simply by seeing Krishna in different kinds of obstacles or difficulties, challenges that we all get every day, then we're actually associating with Krishna. And then he will guide us from within how to make a proper decision or how to think about a particular situation. We're so fortunate, aren't we? Krishna, the reservoir of pleasure, blowing his flute, accompanied by his elder brother Balaram and the other cowherd boys and the cows, entered the beautiful forest of Vrindavan to enjoy the atmosphere. They walked into the midst of newly grown leaves of trees, whose flowers resembled peacock feathers. They were garlanded by those flowers and decorated with saffron chalk. Sometimes they were dancing, and sometimes wrestling with one another. While Krishna danced, some of the cowherd boys sang, and others played on their flutes. Some bugled on buffalo horns. Doo! Krishna and Balaram had their buffalo horns the other day in the temple. It was so beautiful. And then, after blowing on their buffalo horns, they would clap their hands and praising Krishna. Oh, dear Krishna, you are dancing very nicely. Actually, all these boys were demigods descended from higher planets to assist Krishna in his pastimes. The demigods, garbed in the dress of the cowherd boys, were encouraging Krishna in his dancing. More, more! Can you imagine seeing Krishna dancing? Just as one artist encourages another with praise. Up to that time, Neither Balaram nor Krishna had undergone the hair-cutting ceremony. Therefore, their hair was clustered around their shoulders in such a beautiful way. They were always playing hide-and-seek with their friends, or jumping or fighting with them. Sometimes, while his friends were chanting and dancing, Krishna would praise them. "My dear friends, you are dancing and singing very nicely." The boys played at catching the ball with fruits. They played blind man's bluff, challenging and touching one another. Sometimes they imitated the forest deer and various kinds of birds. They joked with one another by imitating croaking frogs, ribbit, 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 like the one I have in my throat this morning. They imitated the frogs, and they enjoyed swinging underneath the trees. Sometimes they would play like a king and his subjects amongst themselves. In this way, Balaram and Krishna, along with all their friends, played all kinds of sports and enjoyed the soothing atmosphere of Vrindavan. So it looks like, oh, okay, I'm just looking at the time here. I don't want to go over somebody else's spot. I think we have a few more minutes. Once while the boys were engaged in their transcendental pastimes, a great demon of the name Pralambasura entered their company, desiring to kidnap both Balaram and Krishna. Although Krishna was playing the part of a cowherd boy, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he could understand everything, past, present, and future. So when Pralambasura entered their company, Krishna began to think how to kill the demon, but externally he received him as a friend. "Oh, my dear friend," he said, "it is very good that you have come to take part in our pastimes." Krishna then called all his friends and ordered them, "Now we shall play in pairs. We shall challenge one another in pairs." With this proposal, all the boys assembled together. Some of them took the side of Krishna, and some of them took the side of Balaram. And they arranged to play in duel. The defeated members in duel fighting had to carry the victorious members on their backs, just as a horse carries the master. They began playing, and at the same time tended the cows as they proceeded through the Bandarivan forest. The party of Balaram, accompanied by Sridham and Vrishabha, came out victorious, and Krishna's party had to carry them on their backs through the forest. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, being defeated, had to carry Sridham on his back, and Bhadrasena carried Vrishabha. Imitating their play, Pralambasura, who appeared there as a cowherd boy, he carried Balaram on his back. Pralambasura was the greatest of the demons, and he had calculated that Krishna was the most powerful of the cowherd boys. This is the last page. In order to avoid the company of Krishna, Pralambasura carried Balaram far away. The demon was undoubtedly very strong and powerful, but he was carrying Balaram, who was compared to a mountain. Therefore he began to feel the burden, and thus he assumed his real form. When he appeared in his real feature, he was decorated with a golden helmet and earrings, and looked just like a cloud with lightning carrying the moon. Balaram observed the demon's body expanding up to the limits of the clouds, his eyes dazzling like blazing fire, and his mouth flashing with sharpened teeth. At first, Balaram was surprised by the demon's appearance, and he began to wonder, how is it that all of a sudden this carrier has changed in every way? But with a clear mind, he could quickly understand that he was being carried away from his friends by a demon who intended to kill him. Immediately he struck the head of the demon with his strong fist, just as the king of the heavenly planet strikes a mountain with his thunderbolt. Being stricken by the fist of Balaram, the demon fell down dead, just like a snake with a smashed head, and blood poured out of his mouth. When the demon fell, he made a tremendous sound, and it sounded as if a great hill were falling upon, being struck by the thunderbolt of King Indra. All the boys then rushed to the spot. Astonished by the ghastly scene, they began to praise Balaram with the words, well done, Balaram, well done." All of them then embraced Balaram with great affection, thinking that he had returned from death, and they offered their blessings and congratulations. All the demigods in the heavenly planets became very satisfied and showered flowers on the transcendental body of Balaram. And they also offered their blessings and congratulations for his having killed the great demon, Pralambasura. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 18th chapter of Krishna, killing the demon, Pralambasura. So on this wonderful Ekādāʃī day, PANDAVA NIRJALA Ekādāʃī, we can follow what Prabhupada has asked us to do, chant 25 rounds. We always used to chant 25 rounds when Prabhupada was here with us. And still, Prabhupada is still here with us when we chant the holy names very attentively. Prabhupada asked us to chant 16 rounds or more. So today we want to chant more and really try to chant with feeling and being attentive to each syllable of the holy names of Krishna. And in this way we experience a very wonderful feeling of shelter and solace despite so many difficulties around us. So I wish you all a wonderful Ekādāʃī. Today thousands of people are circumambulating Vrindavan on the Parikrama path. You can find this Vrindavan Parikrama on YouTube if you like. And let us all offer obeisances to each other and feel very blessed by Srila Prabhupada. Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Haribol. So here it says to finish. Hare Krishna.